Some people rock and some people roll. Some will make you giggle right down to your soul. So talk to the world and introduce them to you. And look at me now, I'm all Barbara and you. You gotta take a step inside the shoes of another. Get to know your neighbor, get to know one another. So talk to the world and introduce them to you. And look at me now, I'm on Barbara and you.
And welcome to the Barbara News Show. I'm Barbara Foster, and you're very smart if you're staying home this evening watching TV. But we're here, and all of my guests showed up, even though it's a miserable evening, and we're happy to be here. Oh, I am. I'm not sure about them. But before I introduce you to my first guest, let me remind you that at 7:30, I will be having three representatives from Luck. Hillary Amity, Cindy Dalton, and Joshua Reynolds will be joining me at 7:30. And we also, they're most of the two out of those three are repeat guests, and Mark Bedanza is also a repeat guest,
yes.
that I'm always happy to see.
Thank you.
Because Mark, you're certainly very well known in the area as an attorney and as an author, and you've always got something going on and a lot of things to talk about. So let's begin with kind of the bad news.
Yeah, somber note.
We got very sad news this past week.
Yeah.
That your dear friend, JoJo White, passed away.
He did.
And I don't want to dare assume that everybody knows that that name, JoJo White. There's a lot of young people that might not remember what a basketball star he was with the Celtics. And I thank you that you gave me the opportunity to interview him, and I was so impressed with what a humble man he was.
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about your friend.
Yeah, JoJo played 10 years with the Celtics from 1969 through the 78 season. And a great basketball legend, Hall of Famer. And, you know, I had the honor and privilege of writing his biography and really became great friends with JoJo. He is the most gracious man that I've ever met. And, you know, watching him interact with fans over the years, Barbara, I've never saw him be anything but accommodating to fans, whether they wanted to shake his hand, tell him a story, a picture, autograph, whatever it might be. He always was there to please the fans. He really loved people, which was, you know, off the basketball court, he was an amazing person in so many ways. And very sad that, you know, he passed on the 16th of January. He won't be forgotten. And as I said, I'm just so happy I was able to capture his stories before he passed. He died from complications of dementia. And one of his daughters, he has 6 children, mentioned to her mom that it was good that I was able to sit with him and capture some of those stories before the dementia got more acute. And while he still had the memory to do it, and I really feel so glad that we did the project and we got that taken care of.
And did you ever dream that you would be in that position to interview and write a book about someone like him and become close friends?
Not at all. I remember watching him play one of the most famous basketball games ever in 1976, Game 5 of the finals that year against the Phoenix Suns. The game was in the Boston Garden. It's still referred to sometimes as the greatest basketball game ever played. And that was a triple overtime game. Some of your viewers may remember it if they're old enough. It was a 63-minute basketball game. JoJo White played 60 minutes of the 63, scored 33 points. Near the end of the game, he had to sit on the court to conserve his energy. He was sometimes referred to as the Iron Man of basketball back then. And as a result of his performance during that series, and in particularly that game, was named the MVP of the finals. I watched that game as a 20-year-old in college and was so blown away by the drama of it. And then when I met him 35 years later, I never dreamed. I had to share with him. I said, JoJo, when I was 20, I would never have dreamed that I'd be sitting here talking to you, doing your book. I would have never put that together. And he got a little glint in his eye, and he took off his '76 championship ring and handed it to me. And I felt all the significance of that gold, both in weight and in symbolism. It was a moment.
But how did you have the nerve to approach him, and how did that?
He actually was a client first.
Oh.
Shortly after he became a client, he developed an illness which ended up being diagnosed as a brain tumor, a benign tumor, but a large one, the size of a walnut. It was removed through some very difficult surgery, and there's some belief that that could be related to his dementia. And finally, what took him was complications from dementia, almost 8 years later, I guess.
How old was he when he passed?
71.
He was 70. I thought it was
young man.
early 70s.
Yeah.
And I did read the book, but I didn't remember some of those facts.
Yeah.
And you brought a few photographs tonight because we do want to honor
I think
him.
we have JoJo there in a famous pose on the parquet floor of the Boston Garden. And I think there was another photo of the book itself, Make It Count.
While we're seeing that, can people still get the book?
Oh, of course. It's available all the usual places, on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Barnes & Noble bookstores. The book's really done well, and Tommy Heinsohn told me at one point that the book helped him get in the Hall of Fame, and if that's even 1% true, I'm very charmed. I'm not so sure about you can quantify that.
Was it in the book? Was the poem about his mother wrote in the book? Yeah, and
Yeah.
that was so poignant. If for no other reason, folks, get the book and read this poem.
It's about the attitude, make every day go out there, and that's how the title came. Do good things for people, make people smile, use the God's talents, God-given talents that you have in a positive way. And that final photo is a picture of us at a Read Boston literacy event sponsored by Mia Menino's daughter. Mia Menino was still alive at the time. And that's a picture of JoJo and I with one of the Boston Red Sox World Series trophies down in a hotel in Boston. It was a great night.
Well, you know that I've admired you for years. For your talent and your ability to write books, but I don't know how your life could be any busier. And a lot of the local people think of you more with football than any of the other sports.
Yeah, I've written a lot of football history. I'm really charmed that Bill Belichick read my second book, 1933, and sent me a very kind note indicating how much he enjoyed it, which for a football historian, it doesn't get any better than that, Barbara. My first book was about principally the Fitchburg-Leominster rivalry, which came out of that reenactment game that we did back in 2009. And that was just an accident. It turned into a book because there was too much information to contain in a program. And I thought I'd sell 100 copies to family and friends, and that would be the end of it. But that book is still selling. And then I got this opportunity. My third book was JoJo's book. And his wife, who was a wonderful lady, told me, she goes, Mark, this is going to open doors for you. And she's right, because JoJo's book, being the third book, led to a fifth book about Celtic legend Sam Jones, which segues very nicely to the project I'm working on right now because...
But you skipped the fourth book.
Well, the fourth book was about the abolitionist Frances Drake from Leominster.
Okay. And I think of you whenever I go past her house that you had restored.
Books 6 and 7 came pretty closely. One is Leominster Chronicles, which is a compilation of 42 short historical sketches of Leominster, and book 7 would be Rivals, which is a box score and summary of every Fitchburg-Leominster game played between 1894 and 2015.
I was looking for my son's name in there, but he played for Fitchburg, and his name didn't make the book.
So now is Project 8, and I did a joint book signing at the Boston Garden a year ago, October, with Sam Jones and JoJo. And a fellow approached me with another basketball legend, Satch Sanders, another former Celtic, who he was good friends with. And I thought that they were just getting together as Celtics, former Celtics, but the fellow was actually looking for me. Sam had recommended me to write his story. And he's a state legislator, state senator from New Hampshire. He's the longest serving senator in New Hampshire. His name is Lou D'Alessandro. And he has a fascinating life. And he called me after that meeting and said he wanted me to come up to Manchester and meet him and talk about doing his book. And we're very close to publishing it. That's about a month and a half, 2 months away. He's a fascinating character. He is got a niche. And that niche is that when you run for president as a Democrat, he's a Democrat, and you need to win that first primary in New Hampshire. And, you know, New Hampshire is a fairly solidly Republican state in many ways. So Democrats are important when you're running for that Democratic primary for president. And it's become known over the last couple decades, if you want to win the New Hampshire primary, you need the endorsement of Lou D'Alessandro. So every, you know, election cycle, the Democrats come calling, and they give him a lot of attention. They want his endorsement, they want it bad, and he vets them, and he decides who he's going to go with, and he has taken on a national importance. And this fact was recognized, in fact, in one of the photos I have in the cache there, is a photograph of a newspaper clipping.
Yeah, we've got
there
that
it
up
is, right there. And
Yeah.
there's Lou talking to Bill Clinton in relationship to his wife's run for, one of his wife's runs for president, I believe the one in 2008. You know, this fact has been pointed out first in 2003 in the Washington Post, and it's mentioned in thousands of newspapers all over the world every 4 years. Lou D'Alessandro takes on a lot of importance, and as it says, when the big dogs come calling, they're looking for Lou. So he's had a fascinating life.
Well, I'm going to back up a little bit. He is a Democrat.
Yep.
But
Wasn't always a Democrat.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well, of course I didn't. I didn't know about him.
He ran for governor as a Republican twice.
Really?
Missed winning the Republican primary to John Sununu by 1,000 votes in 1982, when John Sununu got a $30,000 donation in the last week of the campaign from 5 different engineers in California. John Sununu was in favor of Seabrook Reactor Number 2, and Lou was not. And the industry was supporting John, and John got a big donation, which he used on a TV spread in the last week of the campaign, and inched Lou out by 1,000 votes.
And this is a story you learned since you've been working on his book.
It's featured in the book.
But in the primaries, he's making his selection, personal selection, from all the candidates in the primaries.
Right. So he's become friends with all of them. Al
So
Gore.
he did promote Hillary.
He did, twice. In fact, in 2008, she was down 14 points in New Hampshire and to Obama. And they went out and did a door-to-door campaign. They knocked on a lot of doors, and they pulled off a minor miracle and won the primary for Hillary that year. Of course, it didn't work out in the end because, of course, Obama ultimately won the nomination. But you know, she stayed in it till the end.
Now, when you were interviewing him and getting all the facts together for the book, obviously, if he approached you and he wanted you to write a book, he has a story he wants to tell.
Oh, he does, yeah.
But did you get him to reveal things that maybe he wasn't thinking about saying?
I think in a few instances, yeah. I mean,
see, I try to do that to people.
Yeah, I think, you know, I mean, he's been the nemesis of the union leader from day one. He was too liberal when even when he was a Republican for the union leader. They didn't like him. They ran against him in every campaign. And that's a colorful story. He's been a college president twice. He was a great football player, got a full NCAA scholarship to play at Colorado, which I believe at that time was the Big Seven out in the West.
Had he read your football books?
He has, yeah. He gave up that football scholarship for a girl back in Medford.
Oh, okay.
Which, of course, ultimately didn't work out. And he ended up enrolling in UNH, which is how he got to New Hampshire from Massachusetts. Met his wife at UNH, and they've been married for, I think, 57 years. He's a great guy. He's got a lot of interesting stories. One fascinating anecdote is John Kennedy represented where he was born in East Boston, that district, when he was a congressman. And when Kennedy was running for president, Lou thought he should go at least hear him speak at UNH. So Lou went to the event at the Student Union building, and it was closed because the crowd was too large. So he felt bad about it, and he decided he was going to try to find a way in the building. So he cased the building, found a window he could pry open, hoisted himself up through the window, thinking he was going to land on the floor below, but instead he landed in a stairwell and tumbled down the stairs. Some gentleman went to him and stuck his hand out to help him up, and said, "Hello, my name is John Kennedy."
Oh my goodness,
And he
what
said,
a great story.
And he said, "Hello, my name is Lou D'Alessandro." And that's how he met President
He was a
Kennedy.
college student at the time.
That's right. Can you imagine breaking into the building today for a presidential primary event?
Oh, there'd be security all over you.
Yeah.
But that is really an interesting story.
Yeah.
And you have that knack of finding some behind-the-scenes stories.
Yeah, he's got a lot of them. He's a fascinating guy.
When you write something like that, do you allow the subject to read it before you
Sure.
go to press?
Yeah. It's funny, Barbara, we meet, I determined, he's a gracious host, and I've been to his house a couple of times. His wife is a great cook, but he lives in Manchester. So, it's an hour ride up from here and an hour ride back. And I discovered that exactly equidistant, 30 minutes for each of us, is a Dunkin' Donuts in Brookline, kind of a brand new one. So we meet there on a Friday or Saturday morning, almost weekly. And we've literally researched and did a lot of the book writing at that, not the writing itself, but the commentary and editing on the book at that Dunkin' Donuts. And it just saves us a lot of time, both of us. And so, it's almost kind of funny because some of the people have noticed that we're there and they're not quite sure why. They know he's a New Hampshire senator because he's known up there. But that's how we've put this book together.
That's pretty funny. And I think we just showed the one newspaper clip. We have another picture of him receiving a kiss from.
That's from Hillary when they were out.
Oh, that is. I didn't recognize her.
That's Clinton when we were out on the campaign trail.
When I glanced at it in the control room, I didn't realize it was her.
And that's
there
Lou
you
and
two
I.
are. And what's that list behind you?
That's the honor roll, Soldiers Honor Roll for World War II of New Hampshire. That's in the rotunda of the State House in New Hampshire. We just took that a couple of weeks ago. When I went up to visit him in his Senate office.
Oh, very nice photo. Yeah. How old is he now?
He's 78, I
And
believe.
you said he's the longest running senator?
Longest serving senator in New Hampshire. He's been in office for 20 years. He's also served on the Executive Council in New Hampshire, which advises the governor. Actually has a more expansive role than the Governor's Council in Massachusetts. Rules on a lot of things that the governor has to deal with. He's also been a state rep. He has been a college president twice. He's been involved in education in other ways. Was involved in bus sales at one point, was selling chassis and carriages for a bus company. He's done a lot of different things. He rescued a couple of colleges for people. First for Warren Rudman, he rescued a school which was called at the time the New Hampshire Aeronautical Institute, which later on became Daniel Webster College, which was going down the tubes quick until Lou took it over and reversed it and made it viable, which Warren Rudman was quite happy with because Warren Rudman was a trustee of the school at the time. He's also been a very successful basketball coach, which is how he became friendly with some of the Celtics.
Oh, okay.
He had run a camp with Don Nelson and Satch Sanders for many, many years in New Hampshire, a basketball camp, and is an ambassador and consulted Olympic basketball teams in Europe, England, and Hungary, and went as a Partners of the America ambassador to Brazil to bring basketball clinics and coaching to Brazil on behalf of the, I'm not sure which administration was, but one of the presidential administrations. So he had a tremendous basketball acumen.
But his sport was football.
He was a great football player, but when he started teaching after college, he got into basketball and football coaching. But he ended up at a small college became later on New Hampshire College, but it was College of Accounting in Manchester as a basketball coach and had a tremendous success coaching basketball. And he parlayed it to all of this consulting and basketball coaching internationally. So he's had a tremendously varied career.
Yeah, because I was going to say, what was he before he was a politician? But quite a few things. Well, I would think all of that would prepare someone to deal with the public and serve the citizens.
Yeah, he's well liked, and as he told me, and I think it's very true. And he told me this is part of the reason he said Hillary really went wrong, is that trust and likability are the most important stock and trade in politics. And he said, the second time around in 2016 when she ran against Trump, the campaign was really New York centric. There wasn't that door-to-door coffee table type of interaction with the voters in New Hampshire the second time around, and they didn't want to hear it from anybody outside of New York. It was photographs with celebrities. It was kind of an elitist type of campaign, and he just felt that she kind of lost touch with her public, and that really hurt in the end, hurt the campaign. He's a moderate guy. He believes in reaching across the aisle, doing pragmatic things, getting the work done. But that trust and likability is a really important thing. He's taught me a lot. And when you do these projects, especially biographies, you meet with people 20 times and talk 2.5, 3 hours a shot, you get to learn a few things.
Well, you were telling me that earlier about the trust and what was the other? Likability, yeah. And we were talking about the fact that more people should place their bets or their votes on people they do trust and like.
Yeah.
I just get annoyed with the two-party system. I've been undeclared for years. And when people just vote the party lines as opposed to the individual, and I hear you saying via his quote that it's really important that people like you.
Oh, absolutely. It's hugely important. I mean, if you look at Massachusetts, how do we have Republican governors? I mean, we have a lot of independent voters, of course, in the state, but we have people that are willing to cross party lines because they particularly like a candidate. And I think that's healthy. I mean, I think that's really the way it should be.
Well, and we also needed in the politicians themselves to cooperate between the two parties.
Yeah, and sometimes it's funny. I've been to fundraisers that Lewis held, and I've seen him interact with Republican colleagues, and there are quite a few Republican senators, state senators in New Hampshire. You wouldn't know that they were in different parties. So a lot of this is manufactured, for party and for political reasons, and it's actually comforting to see that a lot of these people can coexist.
Yes, it is. And not to go too far overboard to switching to politics, but I was disappointed that Scott Brown didn't go further, do more.
Yeah, well.
And I think he had a lot of that cooperation with the other parties. Yeah. But anyway, we don't have to editorialize.
It's a tough business.
It is a tough business. Mark, I know I have a lot of viewers who are writers.
Yeah.
And they always want to hear about the mechanics. And most authors have their own style, and there isn't really a formula. Everybody does it differently. Now, when you're interviewing someone and you're saying you're talking to them for a couple of hours, do you record the interview?
I don't, and sometimes I have at times in different research projects actually videotaped interviewees, and I kick myself sometimes. I probably should, Barbara, but I don't. I take handwritten notes. Somehow I just feel my conversation flows better that way, rather than putting them on camera.
I think your training as a lawyer it helps you be able to retain from your notes and go back and transcribe it. I remember Charlie Valera writing his book and interviewing all the World War II veterans. He always videotaped the interviews.
And it's so valuable. I do think when you put a camera on somebody, it changes things. And not, sometimes they're a little bit more guarded. I tend to give of myself as much as what I'm getting back, because I think people, when people hear your stories and your experiences and you're willing to share them with them, they tend to give more to you. And I think that's one of my techniques, and it's just easier for me to do that pen and paper. In fact, I write my manuscripts out.
Do you?
Longhand and in journals, and they're typed by my staff. So that's
when you get back from a 2-hour interview, do you have to go and write it down right away?
I don't have to right away, but I typically do it a chapter at a time. I'll take the notes, I'll write the chapter. It doesn't mean it stays that way, but I get something on paper, and then sort of it flows or it doesn't, and I rework it. But I tend to write that chapter out within a week or two of taking the notes, sometimes the same day, depending, but that's kind of how I do it. In this particular case, he and his wife were very great editors. I wanted them to look at it for accuracy as well as, for the content. And they did a wonderful job with their comments, and we've had a great give and take with that, so.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And sometimes when I've given talks about interviewing and what's really important if you're interviewing someone, and it is so important. A lot of people worry about what am I going to say, what am I going to ask, but the most important part is the listening part.
Correct.
Because so often, if I work from a list of questions, you might say something that takes me down another track,
Right.
and I could miss something really good if I'm stuck to my notes.
It's like cross-examining, Barbara.
Well, yeah, that's why I say
You never know what vein you're going to open.
your
Yeah.
lawyer experience,
Yeah.
and you still have an active law office.
I do, yeah. I have a few irons in the fire, and I'm a city councilor in Leominster. That keeps me
Right.
busy, and I'm a chairman of the board of library trustees in Leominster, and so there's lots on my plate. But I like keeping busy, and I think having, geez, looking at Lou's past, having that varied background keeps things fresh, gets you to take different perspectives sometimes, which is healthy.
And do you have any tips on time management since you're juggling so much?
I try to set goals, short-term goals for each day and get things done. I don't always get the whole task done, and I generally use index cards, and I just at night I'll label, 10 or 15 different goals for the next day, and I tend to get most of them done. And if I don't, we reserve them for the next day or sometime in the future. But I don't like. I'm not good at idle time. I mean, my idle time is watching professional football during the football season. That's my idle time. But
And what a game!
oh, it was something. I'm not sure that was idle time. But
They always keep those. Of course, we're talking about the Patriots now, folks. I switch gears a lot. Oh my gosh, why do they always keep us right on the edge?
well, I think what you're seeing the result of some intense conditioning. The Patriots tend to, these fourth quarter comebacks. You're watching the other team defenses drop like flies, and the Patriots are still out there, performing. McCourty said it best the other day. Because we hate him when he's conditioning us. There are very few people that can condition themselves with that intensity. But Bill Belichick demands from those players a high level of conditioning, and you see it pay dividends in these games. We're watching history that will never be repeated. I've been a Patriots fan since I watched Jim Nantz ramble across the Fenway Park outfield in the early 60s. If you were a Patriots fan in the 60s and 70s, you know the difference of what we're watching now compared to those hard years.
Well, I was the Cleveland Browns and the Cincinnati Bengals way back then, but I'm a diehard Patriots fan now, and everywhere else in the country,
Yeah.
they hate us.
Well, it's okay.
It's
I'd rather
okay.
have it that way around.
They hate us because we're so good. But I have to go on record as saying I was totally wrong when I strongly felt that Tom Brady should have retired last year, that he would never top that
Yeah.
Super Bowl win.
Yeah.
And look at him.
Well, you're not alone. There have been others, in fact, many pundits in the industry that, thought that it was Jimmy Garoppolo time, but apparently Tom is proving people wrong.
Yeah, and talk about conditioning.
Yeah.
He is so dedicated
Yeah.
to keeping himself fit and all this and that. To sum this up, why should we read your book about Senator Lou D'Alessandro?
I think people will learn a lot about sort of a Renaissance guy in a way, who has done a lot of things at a high level, and has really, at the end of the day, his mom died when he was very young, and she was a very decent and caring lady that took care of people all her life, and gave back all her life, not unlike the theme with JoJo and Sam Jones. And he really learned from that and has continued that tradition in his public and private life. And I think, we get as human beings our best contentment, our real pleasure, our real joy from giving back of our God-given talents to others. And I learned that so eloquently from JoJo White a number of years ago, and I think it's enriched my life.
Well, and you're living that. You're giving back to others. And when do we expect the book to be published?
Late March, I'm hoping.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. It's right around the corner.
Yeah, it's not too long.
You heard it first here, folks.
We'll be back with the senator.
Absolutely.
Maybe in a month or two, and he would love. I mentioned to him I was coming here to speak to you this evening, and he would love to come in and meet you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I would really love that too.
Yeah, yeah.
So, Mark, I take my hat off to you if I was wearing one, and I say, keep up the good work.
Thank you, Barbara.
It's amazing what you have achieved, and as I say, you're giving back.
Likewise. I mean, you've been at this for a long time, and you've interviewed some fascinating people, and in your own way, you've given this community a great deal of pleasure over the years, and thank you, and thank you for having me.
Well, thank you. We'll just have our little mutual admiration society. And the door's always open. You
Thank
let
you,
me know
Barbara.
when you and the senator want to come in on the next show,
That'd be great.
okay?
Thank you.
And don't you go away, because I'll be right back with my guests from Luck.
Welcome to Inside Fitchburg. I'm your host, Alex Cardinale. Inside Fitchburg is pretty much a showcase of that work that folks are doing. A lot of conversation is really being steered in a really positive direction, and more is being found out, I feel, now, which is really exciting stuff. Hey, we're back. I didn't have a microphone on. Live TV, everybody. I think you're one of the examples of what the city really needs, and that's, young, energetic folks investing. You guys look great for 150. Do what you love and you don't work a day in your life. Inside the Actors Studio with James Lipton. If you haven't, James Lipton is an old guy with a beard. And what Fitchburg is a lot of really good people working toward a better future for the city.
I am so fortunate to have this job because I get to know so many nice people, and because in our community here there are so many good organizations, one of which is Luck, and I believe Luck has been around longer than my TV show. I'm 41 years on my TV show. How long has Luck been around?
47.
That's what I thought. But that's okay. I'm very happy to have you folks on. It's my practice, always interview from left to right. So we're going to start with the gentleman down there. This is Joshua Reynolds making his debut on the Barbara News Show.
That's correct, yes. Thank you for having me.
And I enjoyed our little chat ahead of time. So in case of any of the viewers are wondering what I was wondering, yes, he is the grandson of Rosemary and Ed Reynolds. Your family's well known in the area.
It is, yes.
I'm sure you hear that a lot.
I have.
And Cindy Dalton, a PR specialist who's been here before with Hillary.
Yep, a couple times.
Good to see you again.
You as
And I
well.
neglected to say, and we'll come back to it anyway, that Joshua is a volunteer mentor. And we're here once again to talk about the Luck Mentoring Program, of which Hillary Amity is the Mentoring Program Coordinator.
Yep.
Yay, I got it right. So, Hillary, as you know, I never like to assume that the viewers have seen my show before. Tell them what Luck is all about and about the mentoring program.
So the Luck Mentoring Program is a mentoring program for kids who are just looking for some additional support in their lives, ages 6 to 17, living in Central Mass. And we recruit volunteer mentors who would be good, positive role models and kind of take them out, take them under their wing, do some fun things with them, kind of teach them some things that they know, guide them in the right direction. The volunteers spend at least an hour a week and make that commitment for a year.
And what's the criteria to becoming a volunteer?
So our mentors need to be at least 18 years and older, and really just need, to be a friend to a kid. There's no special skills that you need. I like to tell people that if you have friends and you are a good friend, then you can be a mentor. So.
But you're making a commitment for about an hour a week.
About an hour a week. I think most of our mentors spend more like 2 or 3 hours at a time, but if people only have an hour, that is fine. It's more about being consistent than anything else, because a lot of kids really have not had good positive role models in their lives that have been there on a consistent basis. So we really stress that.
Right. And Cindy, being the PR specialist for Luck, among other things, when you've got an organization that's this helpful and been around this long, it's not hard to get the publicity out there, is it?
It's really not. We're a very broad organization. We have a lot of different services. Mentoring is one. But we do cover a pretty large footprint as well. We have services, of course, up here in North Central, but we're also in Worcester, we're in Greater Lowell. So we just try to do the best that we can for the families that we serve. And we love to just be able to tell our stories.
Mm-hmm. And as I recall from the early years when I've been interviewing people from Luck for a long time, not as long as they've been in existence, but it started with a hotline, didn't it?
That's right. We were started by a couple of VISTA volunteers, and they set up a hotline, and as the community's needs have changed, we've really grown to adapt to that. So we have a bunch of mental health and support services, from foster care to counseling to the prevention services, mentoring, and some other community education programs as well.
Mm-hmm. And Joshua, you're over 18, I learned that.
Yes, and a good friend.
There you go,
Yeah.
there you go. Well, how long have you been volunteering as a mentor?
Well, I signed up, I believe, last October, and I got matched with my current mentee maybe about 4 months ago, 5 months ago, I want to say now. Yeah.
And why did you want to get involved?
I wanted to give back. In high school, I went to Rheingold and helped out with an after-school program, and I'd spend Monday through Friday about 2 to 3 hours a day there. And then after that, I kind of felt with like idle hands, something else to kind of fill it, so to speak. And the opportunity, I went to a play at Mount Wachusett, and Luck had a program there, a booth set up for the mentoring program. And I decided, kind of like we'll give it a shot, see what it's about. So I filled it out, got a call from Hillary, and then things just kind of started rolling, and it just felt right to go through with it. So I decided to go through with it.
Well, and you're from a family that has always been very involved in the community.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit. And so how does it work? You're assigned one person to work with.
Yeah, well, we'll get an email or a phone call and just say, like, we have this match set up. Here's a little bit about this mentee. If you're interested, let's move forward with doing a face-to-face called The Match. And then we go and we talk. Hillary was there. I met with the mentee, his father, and myself, and we just got to get to know each other a little bit there. Decided, we kind of mesh. We'll go through with that. And then that day, my mentee and I actually went on a little bit of a drive, just the two of us, to get to know each other a little bit more. I found out some of his interests, and then we just kind of moved forward from that. Mm-hmm. And we communicate a lot through text, and we'll meet up, about once or twice a week for a couple of hours. Mm-hmm. We play basketball till the sun goes down when it's not like this outside. But recently, I just taught him how to play a few card games, which was just a lot of fun. Yeah.
And Hillary, Josh brought up a couple of points that he kind of met with the father as well. Mm-hmm. Is it difficult to make successful matches?
I don't think it's difficult. I mean, we do have some matches that don't mesh, but the majority of our matches work. We do a lot of, looking at all the things that Josh told me about in his interview, because we do interview the volunteers first and, find out what their interests are, when they're available, what kinds of things they want to share with a child. And we look at what the kids are looking for too. So we try to make the best match as we can, and for the most part, we do a pretty good job.
Oh, I think you do an excellent job. And Josh, like I said, I know you're over 18. Are you married?
I'm not, no.
You're not, so that gives you maybe a little more ample time.
Yep.
And it's good companionship for you as well.
It is, yeah. It keeps me active, Mm-hmm. Gets me, a reason to kind of go up and do something outside of work, because I do work full time.
And what do you do?
I work at a drug and alcohol rehab.
Oh, God bless you for that too.
Thank you.
Wow. And Cindy, you have the task of letting people know about Luck, but also there's some fundraisers going on and things you need to publicize from time to time.
Yes, there
And what do we have coming up?
All right, so this is our 5th annual Kids at Heart Mentoring Gala. That's going to be coming up on Thursday, February 15th. It's going to be at Great Wolf Lodge. So, right after work, you can head over and there's dinner and music, and we've got some really great items up for auction, both a silent auction and a live auction. We have some really fun balloon pop raffles. That means that you buy a balloon, you pop it, and you win the prize that's inside.
Oh, that's fun.
So that's really fun and different. And we have a really good time.
And what are the ticket prices to attend this gala?
The tickets are $67.50 each, but if you're looking for a bargain, you can get a table of 10 for $600. It's a $75 savings. You can bring 9 friends. It's a really great, it's a good deal for all the different things that are going on.
And it's fun with a cause.
Absolutely.
A very good cause. And I see there's going to be some Boston sports packages, a trip to Disney. How good is that? A week in Costa Rica, Adirondack chairs. Lots of artwork and more auction items, right? Now, is this one of those auctions that people can go online and buy tickets or bid on auction items?
Almost everything can be done online. You can get your tickets, 501auctions.com/LUK Gala. You can get your tickets online. You can bid on silent auction items. The only thing you can't do online really is the balloon pops and the live auctions. You gotta come join us for those. But if you're out of the area, if you're traveling, if you've got family and friends out of state, they can absolutely join us online.
Now, I see here it says Thursday, February 15th from 5:30 to 10. Is it the sort of thing that you can arrive at any time during those hours? Or is there a dinner at a certain time?
Dinner's at 7.
Dinner's at
so
7.
You can join us for the cocktail hour, 5:30 to 6:30. The program starts at 7. And we usually wrap up, I think, a little bit early too. The silent auction closes at 9.
Okay. And Hillary, is this one of the major fundraisers for the mentoring program?
It is the major fundraiser for the mentoring program. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's our biggest. Yep.
And as succinctly as possible, this is a tough question, what are the funds used for?
It is used to help provide activities for some of our matches. It's used to help recruit more mentors for our kids. So it all comes right back, to the program and helping us match more kids. We have a long wait list.
A long wait list of kids. And a short list of volunteers.
A short list of volunteers.
We need work on that, folks.
Yep. Right now, I think there are about 190 kids on our wait list, and that's Central Mass. 51 of those kids are in Worcester, 35 are in Fitchburg, 31 are in Leominster. There's another 15 up in Gardner on the wait list. So there's a big need, and kids are really wanting to have some adult role models in their lives.
And that's our viewing audience, the Fitchburg, Leominster, Sterling, Lancaster. So all of you folks, should be able to scrape up a few more volunteers. I want to read what's on the back of this promotion piece about the gala, because it's very poignant. My mentor changed my life. You can make a difference in the life of a local child, a boy or girl who needs extra support and understanding from another caring adult in their life. If you cannot volunteer as a mentor, you can still support this youth while having a ton of fun by attending the fundraiser. Is that your creation? That's excellent.
I think the language is a bit of a group effort. We've got a whole committee that works both on the marketing and on the gala. But it's all inspired by the people that we work with, the great mentors that we have, the great sponsors and donors we have for the gala.
And I kept looking at the picture trying to figure out if that was Josh on there pre-beard, but I don't think it's Josh.
No.
Joshua, since you've been meeting with your mentee, I like that term, what have you learned? What have you gained by doing this?
That it kind of just takes being there to connect with somebody. I don't try to pressure my mentee at all to kind of open up and talk. And then every once in a while, he'll hit me with something, and we end up having a real in-depth conversation about it. Whereas at first I was thinking, oh no, I'm going to have to know all this philosophical stuff, and that's really not me. But no, it takes just being there, just a little bit of time. And like we said, it's just an hour a week. That's evening TV. You know, that's right after this show. It's another hour, and it doesn't take much to connect with somebody. That's what I've learned, definitely.
Do you make sure he's got his homework done?
Yes, that is one of the requirements before we go and hang out.
There you go.
That's one of the questions I ask every time I meet with him is how you're doing in school. And he's been doing well. He could have some improvement, but it's baby steps so far.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's definitely an active child, and he has a lot of energy.
Oh, who's keeping up with who here?
That's the question, yeah.
And I meant to tell you this when I was talking about your family earlier off air. I meant to mention it, and I don't want to forget. Your aunt, Mary Ann,
Yes.
used to work with us at cable TV when I was first starting my show. She worked with us.
Yep.
So you tell her I said hello.
I will.
And Hillary, when you were talking about all the services that Luck offers, and especially the mentoring program, we live in a wonderful community here in North Central. I really feel that a very supportive community. But there are several different organizations. There's many, not necessarily duplicating efforts, but when you think, I want to support, you can't afford to support everybody. But you have the Boys and Girls Club, you have Big Brothers, and yet there's still a place for Luck as well. And Luck's been around in our area more than Boys and Girls Club for sure. Why is the need so great?
Well, I think for kids today, it's a little tougher growing up than it was maybe when I was a kid. There's so much social media. There's all this political stuff. I just think it's tough for kids. A lot of the kids we see come from single parent families. A lot of kids living with grandparents, kids in foster care, who really just need somebody to be there and listen to them. So,
yes, we definitely are in different times. The dark ages when I was growing up, and my girlfriends, I still have very good friends that I went to the first grade with. But we always say we were born in a good time and place, and there is so much temptation and sometimes hatred and criticism in the world that your heart does go out to kids. And also, it's necessary in most families for mom and dad both to have full-time jobs, which wasn't, I don't know about when you all young people were growing up, but when I was growing up, my mom was all my friends' moms were stay-at-home moms, and that doesn't happen much at all anymore. And you touched upon social media, and Josh, you said you and your mentee text each other.
Yes.
And so you have more contact than just, I'll pick you up on Thursday at 6 and take you home at 8 or whatever.
Via text, yes. Yeah, I was recently in England back in December, and right when I came back, he was going down to Florida for a football tournament. So during those 2 weeks, we texted a lot about what was going on. He updated me every time he won or had a touchdown, which was quite a bit, which is really good.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, they got second in the country, which is huge. And then when we went to the Celtics game recently, he was really excited about that, asking me what was going on, what the plan was, almost every day for about a week. Yeah. So it didn't change throughout the week. I think he was just really looking forward to it, which was a lot of fun. But other than that, I mean, I'm not big on social media. I have Facebook, but that's it. So he had to download Snapchat at the game so he could snap his friends.
I don't even know I don't know those things either. But you're young. You should know all that.
Yeah.
And Hillary, I know we talked about this in the past, and I think it's important to mention that a mentor doesn't necessarily have to spend money on a kid.
that's right. Now, so Josh mentioned that he just took him to a Celtics game, but we gave him tickets.
So that's great.
The Shamrock Foundation and Mass Mentoring Partnership donated tickets for a mentoring night with the Celtics. So that was a special event, and we were allotted, we could send 3 matches to that game. So one of them was Josh, because we knew that his mentee loved basketball and sports. So we were able to give them the opportunity to see a professional sporting event.
And that's really great.
It is.
And it's
It
great
really
that
is.
some people make donations like that.
Yes.
So you do need volunteers.
We
You do
do.
need everybody to come out and support the gala on February Wait a minute, if I turn that over.
15th.
15th at Great Wolf Lodge. Do they need to register or buy tickets ahead of time, Cindy?
They can, but tickets are available at the door.
Okay, because some of us, it's easier to just be spontaneous. Oh, good, I have nothing to do that night, you know. But that's good to know. And how long have you been working with Luck, Cindy?
Almost 3 years.
It's 3 years. What have you learned in those 3 years?
Oh goodness, a lot. Luck is a place where you learn a lot of things. But I think one of the most powerful things that I've seen is how dedicated the people I work with are, and you know, volunteers like Josh, and people who have been working for the agency for some time, like Hillary, like a lot of our other staff. They're really dedicated to the families that we work with. You know, they put a lot of time, a lot of heart into serving these families, and it really makes it all worthwhile.
Mm-hmm. And were you ever a mentor?
I've not been a mentor at this point.
Were you ever, Hillary?
I have not been a mentor, but
Not official.
It's not a qualification for the job.
not official, right? I mean, I
It's
feel
okay.
like I know all these kids and have been in kids' lives, you know, for so long, but not an official mentor.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you're in a kind of, the work that you're all in is, I would think that sometimes you hear some sad stories, and it's hard not to take that home with you. But also, I'm sure you have a lot of rewarding stories. And can you think, without naming names, but can you think of any incidents or specific situations that you went home from work that day, or maybe spending some time with your mentee or whatever, that you just felt like, I'm so thankful I'm doing this, that I had this opportunity to work with Luck, that I have you, Hillary, you have this opportunity to make perfect matches, nearly perfect matches, whatever. Anybody want to share any personal feedback stories that made you feel really good?
One of the programs we had recently was our holiday giving trees, and we had 35 local businesses in North and South Central Mass who participated, and we received over 700 gifts for needy families.
Wow.
This past December, and it was incredible to see outpouring of support. People who say, there's a kid in need, let me help. And we had a staff member who was getting a couple of clothes to supplement, and the person behind her in line overheard her explaining what was going on, and he paid for a pair of shoes for a kid that was in need. So really just telling our stories, people end up, they rise to the occasion.
That's heartwarming. That's very heartwarming.
Yeah, we come from a very generous community
We do.
here, and it's incredible.
How do you find the people that have the needs? Do other agencies send people to you, or?
Sometimes.
So, yeah, for mentors, we don't. For mentees, we don't even look for mentees. The parents call, other agencies refer kids, schools, guidance counselors, Department of Children and Families. They refer kids all the time to us.
And you said you have over 100 names on the list,
We
on the
do,
waiting list
yeah.
now. Oh, that's heartbreaking.
It is. I wish we could just, you know, wave a magic wand and
Yeah.
have all the kids matched, but.
Can you think of any instance you want to share with us that made you feel warm and tingly?
I think we had one of our first youth who was first mentor who was a mentee
Oh.
come be a mentor. So this was a young person who was in our program that is now over 18 and is a mentor now. So
That's giving back, isn't it?
Yeah, that's always nice to see. Makes you feel old, but you know.
That's okay. You're doing something very worthwhile. Josh, you have any little tidbit you want to share?
Yeah, you know, just like we were talking earlier about the upbringing today versus how it used to be, or how I've heard it was. I should say, it's, you know, when I'm hanging out with my mentee, he would rather me do something interactive like board games or cards or chess versus, you know, something electronically, you know. And he puts down his phone because he does have a smartphone, but he puts that down when, you know, we're hanging out and together. Like when we go play basketball, we'll leave our phones in the car. So that's nice to have that's appreciated, that personal interaction, and that he sees that this time is valuable for both of us.
That is extremely impressive. When my grandsons come over, I want to tell them, park your phones at the door, because I mean, it's almost taken away a lot of social skills. How much people are on their phones, and you'll see people sitting in a restaurant not talking to each other. They're at the same table, but they're texting or whatever. But then again, there's a good side to social media too, so I don't mean to rant or rave on that. Cindy, once again, give a little sales pitch for the upcoming gala.
Sure. So February 15th is the 5th annual Kids at Heart Mentoring Gala. It's a great night of food and fun and big prizes, and you'll come in and it'll be a great night. You can get your tickets now.
Online, we have the. I think we have the address online. We had it online earlier. There it is.
Yep.
And they can actually bid on the auction items ahead of time too.
Yep, that's right.
Okay, Hillary, what do you want to say to our viewers? Make sure everybody knows about. I think the biggest message you've given so far tonight is you need volunteers to mentor.
We do.
And they're talking an hour a week.
Right, exactly. I think people can find an hour a week. Just look at all the time you waste on social media. Think about the time you spend watching TV, and just maybe carve out a little bit of that time and spend it with a kid who needs some help.
Well, all of you are doing a wonderful job. Your luck has been a wonderful asset to this North Central area. Keep up the good work. And come back again and see me another time.
We will,
We
Barbara. Thank you
absolutely
so
will.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I hope you've enjoyed this evening as much as I have. I love this show. I've got the greatest job, and I meet the nicest people. But I hope you'll be here with me next week. Another repeat performer, Sharon Bernard, who's the director of the Fitchburg Public Library, will be with us. And Sharon's always got a lot of interesting stories to tell. And I'm going to have Pastor Peter Gregory here from Our Savior Lutheran Church. And the reason I invited him is they have this living nativity every Christmas. And every year for 20, 30 years, I've been thinking, I should go to that sometime. And I went this past Christmas, and it was the most awesome experience. So I asked Peter Gregory, the pastor there, to come and give us a review and tell people you got to go next year. And I'm going to have him back again before next Christmas. But we thought we should do kind of a follow-up and let people know about what goes on with that living nativity. It's a lot of work. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please join me again next week. This is Barbara Foster saying good night and God bless you.